Good evening. My name is Joshua Zepnick, and I am pleased to be with you. I'm an English language arts teacher at Rocky Mountain High School in Boulder, Colorado. Today I will be sharing with you about something that is important for all of us to know as teachers. I will be speaking about an advancement that has taken place, really over many centuries, but especially over the past few decades. This is something that is important for you to know about for your classroom, and it's a growing part of education today. Do I have your interest yet? For many years, all students were subjected to relatively similar treatment with no hope of altering their futures. Stuck in a sort of caste system, slower students with mental disabilities and those with physical ailments or language difficulties were often overlooked and even looked down on. In the past few generations, significant steps have been taken to ensure that these students get a fair shake at learning. One big reason for this success has been the advancement of specific student helps. Today, I would like to take you on a journey into the world of assistive technologies. I want to explore 4 questions regarding assistive technologies. First, what are they? How is an assistive technology classified? Next, when are assistive technologies used? Are there certain students who need them more than others? Who determines this? Third, how can you benefit from assistive technologies? How can your class benefit? What are their long-term benefits? And finally, what is the future of assistive technologies? What are the current trends in education leaning toward in the future? I am sure that you may have many other questions regarding assistive technologies. Some of these points certainly have overlap. However, I believe that after tonight you will have a better idea of what assistive technologies are and a better vision for how to use them. First, what are assistive technologies? Before we can use something, we need to be able to define what it is. I turned to a couple of helpful articles for this job. An article on DoIT's website tells us that the term assistive technologies was first used in 1988 in the Tech Act of 1988. According to this article, an assistive technology is a technology used by individuals with disabilities in order to perform functions that might otherwise be difficult or impossible. In other words, these tools are used to bridge a gap from where the student is to where they need to be. Andrew Lee tells us about assistive technologies on a website called Understood, which is a website dealing with students with disabilities. Lee tells us that assistive technologies allow students to work around their challenges rather than having to suffer through them. This does not mean that the work will automatically be easy. Rather, it will make the work reasonable and possible. Lee says that assistive technologies can be high-tech or low-tech. A student may need a voice-to-tech program or a chair to elevate his leg. Sometimes the need is as complex as a separate computer system for a student with mental difficulties, while other times it's as simple as putting a pencil grip on a pencil so that a student can properly hold her writing instrument. Lee states that these tools help to boost confidence and independence for students. Of course, they will never be completely independent. None of us ever are. However, they will be able to do things by themselves that they would otherwise be unable to do. We will talk more about this later, but assistive technologies are really a way of loving your neighbor as you love yourself. It's really a way to be the hands and feet for someone who is unable to be that for themselves. I found this quote from Augustine and I thought it fit this topic well. What does love look like? It has the hands to help others. It has the feet to hasten to the poor and needy. It has eyes to see misery and want. It has the ears to hear the sighs and sorrows of men. This is what love looks like. Well, since we went all the way back to Augustine, let us go back in history. In fact, even further back to take a look at the history of assistive technologies. I am referring to an article from the site Scanning Pens for this slide. Now, there's some examples from before the time of Christ. Crutches and walking sticks have been around for millennia, and these people who can't get around are helped to be able to get around. The idea of using a piece of polishing crystal as a magnifying glass dates all the way back to the 5th century BC. Going ahead over 1700 years, the first known glasses were invented by a guy named Salvino de Armate in 1284. I don't have a picture of them, but I am sure that they are quite a spectacle. Braille, of course, assists those who cannot see at all and was created in 1824. Now, many of the assistive technologies that we think of as high-tech have really been developed since the 1960s. The first text-to-speech system was invented in 1961 by John Larry Kelly Jr. I'll say that 10 times fast. The first assistive writing tools were created for schools in 1980. Microsoft Windows was introduced in 1985, and many features were added over the years to help Windows become assistive in nature. In 1998, the Assistive Technology Industry Association was born. The Live Scribe Smart Pen, which allowed written words to be digitally scanned and stored, was created in 2007. Assistive technologies became imperative in 2020 and beyond as much of learning became distant and online. Now that we have looked at what assistive technologies are, let us look at when they are used. Who are assistive technologies for? In what circumstances are they used? And who pays for these things anyways? I am referencing Andrew Lee again. He tells us that assistive technologies are used every day by most people in some way. You use your Bluetooth so that you can talk on the phone while in the car. People use online banking to check their account, or online shopping to make a purchase when they can do neither of these things because the bank and the store are closed, or there's a storm dumping 3 feet of snow outside. These soccer players that we see in the World Cup, they have special shoes called cleats to help their feet grip the field properly. And in education, there is a sense in which everyone uses assistive technologies. These technologies, however, are most useful for neurodiverse minds and those who struggle with disabilities. Dial, Carpenter, and Wright wrote a great article on this subject and states that any student who needs assistive technologies must receive them. This is due to such legislation as the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001 and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act of 2004, which requires that all students have an equal education. Any assistive technology, however, must be voted on as necessary and then is paid for by the school. Of course, parents, church groups, and other organizations sometimes chip in and help, but the responsibility really belongs to the school. Vanessa Ian and Andrew Dillon of the University of Texas at Austin wrote an article on assistive technology in education, which I will be referencing. These authors mention that special education leaves students excluded from others and still struggling. This is not, of course, meant to be a knock against special ed teachers, many of whom are overworked and underappreciated. It is, however, meant to say that the system is not ideal. Teachers are a vital part of the assistive technologies process, but they must not be alone. There must be assistance from parents, other staff, the students themselves, and even the community. Also, the adoption of assistive technologies can be a long process, so the ball should begin rolling as soon as possible. There is trial and error, training, and frequent adjustments that need to take place regarding the assistive technology. Finally, these tools should help all students. That is, every student that needs an assistive technology should receive that tool in a timely manner. The point of this is that it allows every student to function properly in an inclusive classroom. Of course, people want to know about the perks of a product. What's in it for me is a commonly asked question. I want to look at a few of the benefits, not just for the teacher or the individual student using the assistive technology, but the classroom at large. This page is a few of the benefits that I've personally thought of. Again, these are things that will benefit the whole classroom. First, assistive technologies make it easier for students to accomplish their work. This is really a no-brainer. When students have tools that allow them to do the job, it makes it easier for them to get the job done. Tied in with this is the idea that teachers spend less time helping students. For example, if a student constantly needs to be told how to do a certain type of problem, the teacher will be caught up helping that student time and again. However, if that teacher can give the student a sheet as a few model problems and colorful illustrations, or maybe a video showing how to do it, the problem will be solved. Third, assistive technologies allow all students to succeed. This is not giving every student the same thing, but giving every student what they need to learn. Finally, assistive technologies allow for a more cohesive education. I mentioned earlier that special ed often excludes students from others. When students are given the tools they need to succeed, they become a functioning part of a regular classroom. For additional benefit, I will turn to an article by Stumble, Martin, and Hedrick. Sounds like a law firm, right? These guys wrote an article in 2009 on the impact of assistive technology on education, employment, and independence for individuals with disabilities. They tell us that although assistive technology is beneficial in primary and secondary education, it is even more profitable in college. Assistive technology, of course, can help to improve student grades. Now, this increases their chance of going to college, and even if they do not, it can often land them a better job. Students who are given the chance to succeed often do so. Of course, some are just lazy, but many would make it if they were given the proper tools. Now, as I mentioned a bit ago, assistive technologies can help students to achieve independence. This is important for them to realize they're not stupid. They're not a burden to others. With the right tools and some training, they can succeed at life. Now, this brings me to my last point. Assistive technologies are useful throughout all of life. Some of them may be discarded after time, like a crutch after the healing of a broken leg. Inevitably, though, new ones will be picked up and some will last for a lifetime. The usefulness of assistive technologies will result in a useful individual. Finally, I want to look at the future of assistive technologies. This is the most unclear of the four areas, as obviously it's not happened yet. We can look at current trends, however, and get an idea of where the SSAT is headed. I look at 3 articles which gave a few ideas at what could be in the future. In an article by Bagan et al., the authors recommended that students become more involved with their IEPs. One way of doing this is to go to the IEP meeting and use assistive technologies to help them explain what helps them. This could be as simple as creating a PowerPoint illustration or presentation if the student is able to do so. Keith Elton spoke glowingly about the future of wearable technologies. Virtual reality helps students to travel places they could never otherwise go, and smartwatches can record lectures and provide data about a student's activities in a Phi-Ed class. Matthew Lynch tells us about technological advances that allow more participation. This includes speech-to-text programs, screen readers, sensory enhancers, and alternative input devices. Most of these are relatively inexpensive options to provide assistive technologies to all students. Ultimately, the future is always unknown to us. It is apparent that more assistive technology is becoming available to more students. This is important because it allows more students to be able to participate and succeed. Tied in with this is the fact that more electronic assistance is becoming available to all students, which gives them more ways to learn. However, when we talk about the future, we must plan as best as we can and leave the rest to God. In His Word, He tells us that the secret things are hidden with Him, and this includes the future. His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. What we see is far smaller than what we know. God knows this, and it is a good thing, or else we'd just be worrying about it. Instead, we must know our job and do it, because God has called us here for such a time as this, and we must use the tools we can to help all the students we can. While other people's standards may shift, we must build on the rock. We must always go back to what the Word of God says. We are told to be kind and helpful. God wants us to do what we can, even when it involves sacrifice, to allow others to succeed. Let's put ourselves in their shoes. Let's esteem others better than ourselves. May God grant us the strength to do this in our teaching and in all of our lives. Thank you for showing up tonight and listening to me speak on a topic near and dear to my heart. Again, my name is Joshua Zepnick from Rocky Mountain High School in Boulder, Colorado. Here is my email and phone number. Feel free to contact me regarding tonight's topic or anything else. Thank you, and God bless.